from this workshop will be accessible to you on the teachlarc.org website. And you should be able to access those videos sometime within the next week. So if you're missing a session and you're like, darn it, I really wanted to go to that session, then don't fear, because you'll be able to access the recordings. All right, so everyone, welcome to my session. I'm Dr. Marini Smith. I teach child development and education at West Los Angeles College. And today's session is called, If Not Now, When? Effective Strategies for Time Management. So all of you are here for some reason. This idea of time management appealed to you and you wanted to maybe learn more. So hopefully this will be an informative and engaging and thought-provoking session. And again, this session is brought to you by the Teach for LA virtual workshop series. And hopefully you've already been attending sessions this week. They're going all week long, all the way through Friday in honor of Teacher Appreciation Week. So hopefully you'll be able to check out different sessions throughout the week. We're super excited to have you all. Lots of different colleges are represented today. So I'm very excited. We'll be going until about 6 o'clock today. So make sure you have a notebook or some Post-its handy. We're gonna really dig in. You're going to get into breakout groups. We're gonna be talking about SMART goals, and we're gonna be watching some videos. It's gonna be a lot of cool stuff happening. So hopefully you are able to maybe jot down some notes. If not, you can just reference the recording later. So here are some frequently asked questions. Will you receive a certificate for this session? Yes. So if you don't mind, please, if you would like a certificate, just go ahead and include your first and last name along with your email in the chat and give me about a day or two. So by no later than Thursday, you will receive a certificate in your email. The certificate will be a generic certificate. It will have the information from our session, but you will be able to input your name in it. Okay, so just give me a couple of days. So by Thursday, you'll have the certificate in your inbox. So again, in the chat, first and last name and your email, and then I will get those certificates to you. And as I mentioned before, the session recordings will be available probably within the next couple of days. All right, are we ready to dive in? Time management. There's no time like the present. We're going to talk a little bit about what that means. That saying, there's no time like the present. It's a little play on words. So I'm going to start with this little quote that I think is very apropos. No matter how busy I am, I'm never too busy to stop and complain about how busy I am. How many of you feel this way? Like there's not enough time in the day to do everything that I need, but hey, you want me to stop and complain about all the stuff that I have to do? I have plenty of time for that. So it kind of goes with this idea of human nature. It's comforting to be able to talk to people and to kind of vent, right? To vent and complain about how much time you need to do all of the things that you need to do. So I thought that was really funny. No matter how busy I am, I'm never too busy to stop and complain about how busy I am. So here's the session description just to make sure that you're in the right place. So this is what we're going to be covering today. So think about these questions. Do you ever feel like there's never enough time in the day to balance all of your commitments? Right here. Do you struggle with procrastination or experience anxiety when deadlines are looming? You are not alone. Participants in this workshop will learn helpful tips for enhancing their time management skills, including realistic goal setting, maximizing their efficiency, and reducing stress and anxiety. Now you're talking my language. We all need to bring down our stress and anxiety levels. We will also dispel some common myths about time management. And we are so glad you could join us. There's no time like the present. I really like this quote too, if not now, when? It's something that's kind of been sticking in my head lately. I think to myself, with all of the tasks that I feel that I have to do and feeling overwhelmed, if I'm not going to do it now, when am I going to get to it? So if I don't have a concrete time in my mind of when that task is going to get done, then the chances are it's probably not going to get done. So this is a question that I ask myself. If I'm not going to do it now, well, when am I going to get it done? right? Because if I don't have time to get to it now, how am I going to make time to get to it later? Okay, so we're going to look at a quick poll just for fun to get us started. So you should see the poll popping up. If you aren't in this workshop right now, what else might you be doing? So if you aren't here on a Tuesday at about 4:40, if you aren't here in this workshop, what else might you be doing right now? Go ahead and respond to the poll. About 50% of folks have answered it. I'll give it about another 30 seconds to cast your vote. Got almost everyone. We're going to close it out in about 5 seconds. All right, so let's take a look. Very interesting. So almost more than half of you, wow, said that you would be doing homework. Wow, so a lot of you here are probably students, so you would be doing homework if you weren't in this session right now. So hopefully you'll find it worthwhile that you're carving out this hour and a half that's being taken away from homework, and hopefully at the end of this you'll say it was worthwhile. About only one of you said that you would be in class. 6 of you said that you would be cleaning or doing housework. 1 person said that they'd be working out. No one said they'd be reading. 1 person said that they would be perfecting their TikTok skills. No one said that they would be shopping online. Are you sure? And 3 folks said playing video games. 3 folks said something else. And it's funny because since almost all of you have your cameras on, I wonder if some of you are actually doing some of these things right now, but I just don't know. For the 3 of you that said something else, does anyone want to share what that something else would be that you would be doing right now? You can either unmute or put it in the chat. What else might you be doing? Oh, someone else said grading homework. We have a teacher in the house. Hobbies, working, cleaning right now while listening. Thank you for being honest. Taking care of my dog, grading, yes, as a teacher. I feel like grading never ends. It's the bane of my existence, taking care of pets. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Uh-oh, give me 1 second. I clicked the wrong button and then I lost you all for 1 moment. I'll get you back. Don't worry. All right, can you all see my screen, hopefully?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so this is kind of a rough outline of our agenda for our session. First, we're going to talk about what is time, because time is a pretty abstract concept. So we're going to talk about different kind of aspects or facets of what is time exactly, because if we're going to talk about time management, we first need to kind of understand what does time mean? What is our perception of time? And then we're going to talk about some common myths related to time management and dispel some of those myths. Then we're going to take some time and talk about and explore goal setting. We're going to do an interactive activity where we're going to create some SMART goals. Then we're going to talk about efficiency. Efficiency is a really important part of time management. It kind of goes hand in hand. And then we're going to talk about reducing stress and anxiety, because that's one of the big factors with time management, right? When you're not managing your time well, it heightens your stress and anxiety, right? And some of us, when we procrastinate, it increases our stress and anxiety when we have deadlines looming and not feeling like we have enough time. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we can reduce stress and anxiety. So let's talk about time. I really like this kind of little poem here because it gets us to think about time in maybe a way that we don't normally think about time. Yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, but today is a gift. That's why we call it the present. So we think about this play on words. So present is, in one sense, it's the here and now. We are in the present. And also we think of present as a gift, right? So every moment of our lives is valuable. So if we kind of think about time, the time that we have as a gift, we think about the here and now as a present. And so that kind of helps us to appreciate and value the time that we have. Time is a non-renewable resource. Once it is gone, it is gone. So we think about, environmental science. We can't reduce, reuse, and recycle time, right? You will never see this moment again. So that's it. Once that time is gone, it's gone. You can't get it back. Poof. And then in the words of Miles Davis, time isn't the main thing, it's the only thing. So let that resonate for a moment. Time isn't the main thing, it's the only thing, right? So time is everything, essentially. So it's really kind of powerful and transformative to think about time in these different kind of philosophical, abstract, existential ways. Because time is really kind of this we talk about time all the time, but it's really kind of this abstract concept. So let's kind of put things into perspective a bit. How much time do you have? So we know that we have 24 hours in a day. Maybe you didn't know that there's 168 hours in a week. There are 8,736 hours in a year. Multiply that by 10, we have 87,360 hours in a decade. 698,888 hours in an average lifetime of 80 years. Wow. So this number, 10,000, what do you think the 10,000 represents? Does anyone want to take a guess with relationship to time? Does anyone want to take a guess as to what the 10,000 represents? Feel free to unmute or put it in the chat. Any takers? 10,000 minutes to develop a good habit. Time we sleep. These are good guesses. Thank you, Maya and Linda. Anyone else? Seconds of the day, time of learning. We're all on the right track. So 10,000, Maya, you were close. Experts say it takes at least 10,000 hours to master something. Wow. So some of you may be familiar with the author Malcolm Gladwell. He talks about this in one of his books. So there's data that researchers have collected that say that in order for someone to master something, to master a skill, it takes 10,000 hours. That's a long time, but I think it really helps us to kind of keep perspective when we are pushing ourselves, when we're discouraged and we want to give up on something and we think, I should be good at this, or I should have mastered this already. It takes 10,000 hours to master something. So we got to give ourselves a little patience and a little grace. And this comes from the experts, from folks who've spent a lot, lots and lots of time, whether it's LeBron James, mastering basketball, right? We're glad he's back from his injury and he's back with the Lakers. If it's your favorite TikToker or your favorite singer or athlete, think about they've probably spent at the minimum 10,000 hours because they've gone beyond mastery, but that's how long it takes. So again, give yourself some time. That really puts things into perspective, I think. So let's think of time in all of these various contexts. So to realize the value of 1 year, Does someone have a question? Okay. To realize the value of 1 year, ask a student who failed a grade, right? 1 year would mean everything. To realize the value of 1 month, ask a mother who gave birth to a premature baby, right? As a child development professor, we talk a lot about infant development. And so we know that 1 month can mean the difference between lungs and other vital organs developing properly. So 1 month could mean everything. To realize the value of 1 week, ask the editor of a weekly publication. A lot can happen in 1 week and you have to be ahead of the news almost. To realize the value of 1 day, ask a daily wage laborer with kids to feed. 1 day can mean everything for their family. To realize the value of 1 hour, ask the lovers who are waiting to meet. 1 hour can feel like an eternity for someone that you really, really want to see and spend time with. To realize the value of 1 minute, ask a person who missed the train, just by 1 minute. To realize the value of 1 second, ask a person who just avoided an accident. I'm sure we've been in that situation, your heart's beating. You know, you're thinking, my goodness, if I would have turned that corner a second sooner, or if I would have stepped on the brakes a second later. To realize the value of 1 millisecond, ask the person who won a silver medal in the Olympics. So it's very, again, this idea of time is this really kind of powerful but esoteric concept. So these are some interesting ways to think about time. All right, so we're going to take a moment. We're going to watch a brief video. Some of you may have seen this already. It's pretty compelling. Your life equals 28,835 days. What will you do with that time? So they're using jelly beans to represent years of your life. So let's take a look and see what you think.
These are roughly 28,835 jelly beans. I counted out 500 of them and used those to weigh the rest. In this pile, there's 1 jelly bean for.
Oops, sorry. Are you able to hear it?
Yes.
Perfect.
Each day that the average American will live. You might have more beans in your life, or maybe less, but on average, this is the time we have. Here's a single bean. It's your very first day. A special day, but kind of a rough day on everyone involved. Add 364 more and you have the first year of your life. Now, for a sense of scale, here are your first 15 years, 5,475 days, which brings us to the threshold of adulthood. And at that moment, this is the time that we have left. And this is, on average, what we will do with all that time. We will be asleep for a total of 8,477 days. If we're lucky, some of that time we'll be sleeping next to someone we love. We will be in the process of eating, drinking, or preparing food for 1,635 days. We'll be at work, hopefully doing something satisfying, for the equivalent of 3,202 of those days. 1,099 days will be spent commuting or traveling from one place to another, maybe a little bit more if you live in LA. On average, we will watch television in one form or another for a total of 2,676 days. Household activities, like chores and tending to our pets and shopping, will take another 1,576 days. And we will care for the needs and well-being of others, our friends and family, for 564 days. We'll spend 671 days bathing, grooming, and doing all other bathroom-related activities, and another 720 days will go to community activities like religious and civic duties, charities, and taking classes. After we remove all those beans, this is what remains. This is the time that we have left. Time for laughing, swimming, making art, going on hikes, text messages, reading, checking Facebook, playing softball, maybe even teaching yourself how to play the guitar. So what are you going to do with this time? How much of it do you think you've already used up? If you only had half of it, what would you do differently? What about half of that? How much time have you already spent worrying instead of doing something that you love? What if you just had one more day? What are you going to do today?
All right, so thoughts about the video, anything that stood out to you or that surprised you? What are your feelings about some of the examples, the imagery even in the video? Any thoughts? Eye-opening, love the visual representation of a day. Yes, it's heavier than I expected in a time management class. Yep, you're gonna get a little bit of everything today. Thank you all for sharing. So we're going to talk about some common myths. And these are things that you may have heard and you may have said yourself. Time management is nothing but common sense. I do well in school, so I must be managing my time effectively. How many of you are guilty of feeling that or thinking that? And I think that's kind of human nature, is that we feel like we're getting by okay. So if it's not broke, don't fix it. I don't need to worry about managing my time because I'm doing just fine. I'm doing well in school. I'm doing fine at my job. So I must be good. Another common myth is it takes all the fun out of life. Like, who wants to sit down with a calendar and setting alarms and planning out their day? Not me. I want to spend time enjoying life. I don't want to spend time planning it. So sometimes we think that it takes all the fun out to manage our time. Time management, please. I work better under pressure. How many of us have felt that too? I know I definitely have been in situations where it's when that deadline is looming and I know that it's around the corner and I feel that sense of urgency. That's what kind of kickstarts me into getting things done. Because I will say, even though I am leading this workshop, it does not in any way, shape, or form mean that I am an expert in time management or that I have, that my time management skills are perfect or that I don't have room for improvement. So a lot of times I'm going to share some examples of ways that I also may need a little bit of help or guidance in some of these areas. It's a work in progress, right? But these are tips that I know work. No matter what I do, I won't have enough time. So it doesn't matter if I plan, it doesn't matter if I hire a life coach, it doesn't matter if I have myself accountable to a study group, it doesn't matter. I'm just not going to have enough time. There's just too many things to do. So these are a lot of myths that we hear, that we say, that we experience related to time management. All right, so let's talk about the reality of time management. So let's dispel some of these myths. So one thing to keep in mind is that time management actually increases your productivity. So thinking about the video with the jelly beans, right? And we think about how precious time is, right? It's a present, right? There's no time like the present because today is a gift. So if you're managing your time well, you're going to produce more. You're going to be able to accomplish your task and you're going to have more time for preferred activities, right? We all want that. Also, it reduces stress. Think about how much calmer and more relaxed you feel when you've met a deadline, when you've submitted an assignment before it's due and you're not racing against the clock, because now you've got 3 assignments that are due on the same day. So think about how your stress level is reduced when you're able to manage your time effectively. Also, it improves self-esteem. Think about how hard we are on ourselves. I know that I've been in that situation before where I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I've pulled an all-nighter, I know that I haven't done as well as I need to do, or I've got a pile of papers to grade. And I think about, gosh, I'm letting my students down. Or, I should be better than this. I know better. I know that my quality of work is not going to be good when I do this. And so we beat ourselves up. So it improves our self-esteem when we are able to manage our time. Also, it helps to improve our balance in our life. So think about how there's so many things in life that we want to do. There's the things that we have to do. There's the more preferred activities. We're going to look at that a little bit later and put different things into categories. But we all probably want to strive for balance in our life, right? You know, you hear work hard, play hard. You want to balance. If you put in a lot of work, you want to be able to have a lot of time to relax too. So we want to try to establish that balance. And when you're able to successfully manage your time, then that balance is more likely to fall into place. It increases your self-confidence, so not just your self-esteem, but also your self-confidence. When you're able to manage your time better, in one aspect, then you're able to apply that to other parts of your life. And it helps you to reach your goals. Definitely helps you to reach your goals, whatever those goals are. We're going to talk a little bit more in detail about goals, but think about all of the things that you want to accomplish, whether they're school-related, work-related, or extracurricular, personal. When you're able to manage all of the different requirements to get to that goal, then you are more likely to be able to accomplish those. So we're going to dive in a little bit deeper into goal setting. So make your goals specific and concrete. And I'm sure many of you have heard this before. Don't be vague. So if I say, for example, I want to eat better, which is a goal that I have. I want to be able to eat better. That's pretty vague. That's pretty general. But maybe if I said something like, I want to eat 3 balanced meals per day. I want to make sure that, each meal is low in sugar, but high in protein. And I want to make sure that it's balanced with a vegetable and a grain and a protein. And I want to limit snacks and sugary drinks. That's a lot more specific because I'm telling you exactly each day, how I want to balance my meals, what I want to include, the healthy portions, and what I want to exclude, the sugary drinks and the sugar in the foods and snacking. So that's more specific. The more specific you are, the more likely you're going to meet those goals. Also, it's important to set both long-term goals and short-term goals to support them. So if I say I want to eat better, am I talking about for the rest of the year? Am I going to take it and chunk it a month at a time? So what are some short-term goals that I might use to support that? So maybe when I make my grocery list, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to allow myself 2 sweet treats each time I go to the grocery store versus just, grabbing things with abandon, like here's my snacks, here's my ice cream, here's my chocolate, here's my chips. And I'm going to say, okay, I'm only going to allow myself 2. So you need to have short-term goals to support your long-term goals. Set deadlines for your goals, because if you don't set deadlines to your goals, you're not going to be accountable to them most likely, and then you're not going to be achieving those goals. So if you set deadlines and you can incrementally work towards meeting those deadlines, and then you can reevaluate. Maybe the timeline that you set wasn't realistic, and so you can adjust. So you need to set deadlines for your goals, and then that way you can celebrate your success. Integrate your goals. So your school, personal, and career goals, you can integrate those because they're all part of your life. They're all important. We talked about balance. So integrating those goals is important as well with goal setting. And also realize that goals change. Goals are fluid, right? Depending on what's happening in your life, we're influenced by other people, our interests change, the world definitely changes. So it's important for us to know which goals we want to maintain and we want to stick to, and which goals we need to readjust and reevaluate. And sometimes we need to abandon them all together and say, I'm going to start over and pick a different goal that suits my life and my needs and my goals. And then with all of that, the target is success. That's the goals that you want to feel like you've reached personal success or academic success or professional success. Whatever your goals are, if you're setting your goals according to these guidelines, then most likely you're going to experience success. It's not easy, right? Otherwise, we'd all do it. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about SMART goals, because in just a few minutes, you're going to be put into breakout groups and you're going to be exploring, as a group, you're going to be developing a SMART goal. Now, some of you maybe have heard of SMART goals before, maybe you've practiced them before as well. It's a really effective way to make sure that your goals have all of the ingredients to get you on that target of success. So let's go through the process. We're going to take you through the acronym for SMART with this example. So the S in SMART stands for specific. So one specific goal might be I will earn 90% in my math class versus something that's not specific, right? I want to pass my classes, or I want to do well this semester. I want to pass math class, right? We want to be more specific and say, I will earn a 90% in my math class. That's specific. The M is measurable. How are we going to know that we are reaching this goal? So I will submit all assignments and earn at least 88 to 92%. And that's something that you can track. You can track and see, am I submitting my assignments? What scores am I earning on those assignments? Am I reaching that 88 to 92% to hopefully get me to the average of 90? Is the goal attainable? So is it something that you can actually do? Is it doable? I will join a study group and attend office hours 1 time a week. So making sure that whatever the goal is that you set, you're coming up with ways to make that goal attainable. Is it attainable for me to join a study group? Right? So this is where you really have to kind of get to know yourself, right? You're being metacognitive about how do you best learn. So if you're someone who doesn't necessarily like working with a group, then you wouldn't put this as part of your goal, right? And attending office hours 1 time a week might be more attainable than saying, I'm going to go to office hours 3 times a week, where that's not realistic, which takes us to the next one, are relevant. So how are you going to make sure that the parts of your goal are actually going to help you to meet that goal, right? So if I say I'm going to, practice my guitar, or I'm going to make sure that I fold laundry right when they come out of the dryer, those goals are not going to help me earn a 90% in my math class, at least not directly, right? Those might be great parts of another goal, but we want to make sure that whatever we come up with is relevant to help us to earn the 90%. So we're going to keep up with assignments, lectures, and notes to help me clarify any confusions. And then finally, time bound. Time bound, sometimes you'll see timely, and for relevant, sometimes you'll see realistic when you're looking at SMART goals. For time bound, you remember, you need to have a deadline, you need to have an end goal, or you need to have a time frame for when you're going to check in and see, did I meet that goal? So for this one, we'll say, I will keep track of my progress weekly until June 6th. So not just June 6th, but weekly. I'm going to check in weekly with myself and making sure that I'm doing all of these things to make sure that I'm going to reach my goal of earning a 90% in my math class. So take a look at these. I'm just checking the chat. Somebody said an account for meal prep time. Yes. Okay, so next we're going to kind of put this into practice. Okay, so you're going to be put into breakouts, and you're going to have about 6 minutes to do SMART goal setting. You're going to create a SMART goal for something you want to accomplish this semester, and it does not have to be something that is school related. Okay, so it can be anything. Like in the video we saw, practicing the guitar. So if that's something that your group decides, then you can go ahead and try to craft your SMART goal based on that particular level of interest. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example of what one group did, just in case you want some ideas. So this is what it's going to look like when you get into your groups. You're going to see a document that looks something like this. So this particular group, they wanted to read 52 books in a year, which is an amazing goal. So you're going to have a document that looks just like this. So they broke it down. They're going to read 5 books a month until they achieve 52 books in a year. So that's like a book a week. That's pretty more than a book a week. That's a pretty lofty goal. Start January 2021, end in December, and then measurable, 1 to 2 books a week, 50 pages every night, read only 200 pages of books. Okay, making sure that is it realistic? What support do I need? Join a book club, share the challenge on social media. I like that because when you publicize things or share it with others, then you tend to be more accountable. Mark my progress on the calendar. Why is this goal worthwhile? I'll become more knowledgeable. There's self-fulfillment, understanding other people's perspectives, and it's fun. And then the timely part, when do I want to achieve this goal? You're going to write down a target date. Okay, so what you're going to see, are y'all seeing my screen where it says group 1, group 2, group 3? So what you're going to see, I'm going to put this in the chat. This is a link to the document that's going to take you all to your particular SMART goals template. So if you're in breakout group 1, then you're going to click on group 1. And when you click on it, you're going to see, you're just going to click on the template, and then someone in your group, you can designate someone in your group to be the scribe. And as a group, you're going to collectively fill in those different compartments. Now, I know you only have 6 minutes, so it's totally fine if you don't get to it all. The point of this is just to kind of expose you to the process of creating a SMART goal. And it's fun because you'll be able to do it in a collaborative way. So we're going to have 10 groups. So each group will have about 4 to 5 people in it. And so depending on your breakout group, that will be the group hyperlink. So if you're in group 4, you'll click on group 4 once again, and then you'll go to that Google Doc. Okay, and then you'll have 6 minutes in your groups to work out the template. And again, it's okay if you don't complete it. And I'll be kind of popping into the groups just to check in if you have any questions, and then we'll go from there. So in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and put the link. Feel free to ask me any questions now. So I just put the link in the chat to the Google Doc that has group 1, group 2, group 3, etc. Okay, and then I'm going to put you all in groups. So what questions do you have for me before I send you into your groups for 6 minutes?
Just to let you know, the doc only has 6 groups, and you said there was going to be 10.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So I sent you the. I sent you.
Yeah.
It should
You
have.
probably,
Oh, you know what? Maybe I sent you the wrong one. Sorry.
I was gonna say you may have sent the wrong one. I just wanted to let you know before you disappeared, everybody.
Thank you for telling me that. That's why I'm so glad you're here, and for many other reasons. So disregard the first link. My apologies. We're going to do the one that has 10. So I'm going to put use this link. Okay, so hopefully that one has 10. Can somebody verify that, Bobby? Does that one have 10? Oh, you're muted.
I was looking at the document. It's asking me to request access.
Okay, so let me fix that. See?
It's always something,
I did all of this stuff beforehand, but I guess I was doing it to the wrong document. So I'm going to make sure that I update. Yeah. My bad, everyone. See, even me, the whole time management thing, see? It's not perfect, even though you think you planned it. So now you should have access.
It works.
Okay.
Yeah, it works now.
Okay, perfect. So now I'm going to send you off to your breakout rooms. You'll have 6 minutes. So we'll come back together around 5:18, 5:19. All right, so you should see the prompt to join your group. And again, each group will have about five folks in it. I'm going to put the link in the chat again, just in case. Okay.
I wasn't going to join. I didn't join a group so they don't use me as a crutch. That happens sometimes.
No, I hear you. There are some folks who are still here, so I'm guessing they're not by their computers and they don't see that they're being invited to a breakout room.
Yeah.
Alyssa, Fabiola. Okay, because they all are assigned rooms, but that's okay. So I am going to kind of just pop into some rooms.
Okay.
And you might be able to as a co-host if you want, but maybe it's better to stay here in case somebody has a question.
Yeah, in case one of these people pop up and say, hey, where's
I
everybody?
don't have room. Yeah, exactly. Okay, I will see you in a few minutes.
Okay.
I am a little confused. Are we supposed to
Hi,
be in the document?
is this Fabiola?
Yes.
Well, she had sent everybody into breakout rooms
Okay.
and she actually called out your name because she thought you might be there, but you didn't respond.
No, I got locked out. I don't know how.
Yeah, I just added you again. But they're only going to be in there for a few minutes. They are going on. They did use that link to the document.
Yeah.
But what you did was you click on whichever group number you were sent. You know, the
Oh,
group
okay.
that
Yeah,
corresponds to
I
the
was
group
locked out for a
the
minute. I looked in
yeah.
back.
Fabiola,
Marini,
you need help? Sure, I
yeah,
see.
she was locked out for a minute and she logged back in and I just
Oh, no
readmitted her.
problem. Do you
Yeah.
remember what group you were in before, or do you want me to just put you in a new room?
You can put me in the new room. I don't remember.
Okay, no problem. So I'm gonna put you in room 5. So give me 1 second and then you should see, you should be going to room 5. Okay. I don't know about the students who are still here, but that's okay.
It's only 3.
It's only 3, that's pretty good. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna pop into another room. Okay. Seems like they need a little bit, just based on what I'm saying, they need a little bit more time. So I'm just going to send them a message. Are you coming to all the sessions, Bobby?
Renee, Gadira, and I are
Between the three of you.
divvying them up because like
Gotcha.
sometimes it's just a presenter of one and they really kind of need help admitting people. I mean, you can't watch everything.
Yeah, it is hard.
Admitting people that are coming in after you've already started and you're trying to present and you know, some questions I can answer if it's not pertaining directly to your presentation. So yeah, we've kind of split them up and we're all, and I'm on my phone because they're texting me questions.
Oh, gotcha.
The two of them, there's like, hey, can you, hey, someone sent an email and can you answer that email? And it's like, oh, what?
I would imagine there are probably a lot of emails coming at Renee.
There's, she closed the registration Sunday morning.
Yeah, at 8, right?
But then we've also told people that if you miss the registration, email Renee, she'll manually, yeah. So Sunday she had like 28. Monday morning she had like another 47 or something.
Oh, no.
Today she had something like 68.
I bet she's wishing that she didn't. Yeah.
I know, but it's great for we're still doing it because overall it's good for our numbers. We can say instead of only 1,000 people register for the conference, 1,500 or whatever it ends up being. So yeah,
it's just a lot of work for her. She's going to be tied to her email.
I know, a lot of busy work. So some emails, sometimes people just email me directly. Sometimes they email her. And so she forwards, hey, can you answer this question?
Gotcha.
Forward. And then I'm also trying to upload all the videos and the PowerPoints.
Oh,
and
wow.
all the documents people send, I'm uploading them to the website. So
we have a lot of, I know, it's impressive. Yeah. You're like doing it in a lot of busy work. This is where you need like a couple of more hands on deck to help out with this, but I know it's hard. Yeah, so you have to explain it and show them what to do. You're like, I might as well just do it myself.
Yeah, no, it's just easier to do it myself. Yeah, yeah, I can do it quickly.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm going to check out these documents and see if they're being populated. Let's see. Okay. I'm not saying most of them are blank. I see that they're kind of working on them. Some of the groups are, so they needed more time.
Are these people coming back in?
I recognize one name who's coming back. I don't know about the other two.
Yeah, because I don't know if it was like new people that are just coming into the session or it's
right
people coming back from their breakouts.
Kendall, do you need a breakout room? Are you coming back or were you already here? Are you new to the session right now?
No, I came back because it dropped me out. So
okay. Do you remember which breakout room you were in? Let me see if I can find it. Okay, Alondra was in group 7. I'll put you back. Kendall, do you remember? Kendall, do you remember what room you were in?
I do not. Sorry. I've been on Zoom. I've joined every session today.
Wow.
Since 9 a.m.
You're amazing. So you're even better than me. I've done 2. I'm gonna just put you in room 2. Is that okay?
Anything is fine. Thank you.
Sure. It's hard to know what planet you're on after a while.
Yeah.
When you do too much Zoom.
Okay, I'm gonna send them a message. We're gonna close out in 1 minute.
So there was no discussion in the breakout room I was in, so that's why everybody was muted. So
nobody initiated the conversation?
Nope. So then I thought, well,
what group was that?
I don't even know. I was in it. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know.
I'm sorry about that. Usually the peer pressure of silence, somebody who unmutes and starts talking, but I guess it didn't work in that case.
No, so I was like, okay.
That's okay. Well, you have access to the form. You have the Google Doc. So if it's something that you want to do and try out on your own, feel free to do it.
Okay. Okay. Wait.
All right, folks should be coming back within about the next 30 seconds. So I'm seeing some of the forms that you all have started working on, and I'm seeing some really great SMART goals that are being generated, like becoming a teacher, getting a driver's license, and passing. These are great. All right, I think everyone is back now. I saw some of the forms that you were working on. Awesome job. I teach at West Los Angeles College for Carolina, who asked. So how did it go? How did it go? I know we had some groups that maybe had a little bit of a tricky time getting started and trying to figure out like what goal is whether it's too broad or too narrow. What was that process like? Would anyone like to share? What did you come up with? Or what was the process in general like, even working with group to kind of come up with this SMART goal? Anyone want to share? Or let me reframe that. Who would like to share?
I can share.
Okay, go ahead, Victoria, and then Abigail.
I think like when we started talking, what was kind of difficult was just we had like so many ideas. It was kind of difficult to designate which one is more appropriate to like the S versus the M and the A, and kind of realizing which ones seemed like they fit that category, you know, and we're like kind of similar to the examples like of what the point of them was.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing. And then I think Abigail, is she still here? There we go.
Just wanting to play Dinosaur Egg.
Oh, I love it. It's real life.
Go there. But I would agree. Yeah, it's very hard to kind of gauge really quick when you're thrown into a group of like, okay, am I stepping on somebody's toes? What do we say? How do we kind of get to the juicy parts of it quickly? And then, yeah, it's just hard to kind of process it, put it all down.
Oh, I love it. So the process was a little challenging to get your bearings. I know 6 minutes is not a lot of time, so I gave you a few extra minutes. Someone else also asked in the chat that they didn't know if they were, if the goals were individual or as a group. It could have been either or, but I think in general, it would be like an individual goal that you're working on as a group. So an individual goal, for example, of reading 52 books in a year wouldn't be a group effort. Or somebody who said driver's license and passing, getting your driver's license and passing the test. So that would be just, you know, in theory, it's an individual goal, but everyone as a group is kind of helping fill in the gaps for, well, how can we make that specific? How can we make it measurable? So it's more an individual goal, but with folks in your group helping you to figure out how to make that goal SMART.
I think it would have been in my mind to go, this is advice for a broader, like just what would I say to somebody? Here's the steps to achieve this.
Mm-hmm.
I think all of us were like, okay, what do I, you know, like getting past that initial internalization.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Rob Marie, I see you nodding. Did you want to add?
Yes, because I think this was a great exercise, sort of like to keep in mind a goal, and really just being specific with it just really helps you to achieve the next steps and sort of break down each goal. Like the more you break down each goal, the easier it is to visualize. And so it was an interesting exercise because it was a little challenging to choose the goal and sort of to decide, but once we did, that breakdown really helped keep the goal along. So
awesome. And what goal did your group decide on?
We were going to create a budget for
love. Oof, that's a good one. That's a really good one. Practical. Yes. Well, I can't wait I get to go through all these and kind of see what the groups came up with. And again, this is a Google Doc. It's a a live kind of organic document. So feel free to go back into it on your own, because this is something that I want you to hopefully think about using. And Rokeya, I see your hand and I'll call on you in just a second. Don't think that this is something that you have to do for every goal, like you're sitting down like, well, I'm going to create a SMART goal for the day. Usually it's a SMART goal is something that you might use for bigger goals. But, you know, once you get accustomed and you get adept to doing it, then you might want to knock out a SMART goal, you know, for something that's more short term. Because if you think about the components of it, once you become a little bit more familiar with the process, you can probably do it in your head or just jot it down on a Post-it or something for a more short-term goal. Because really, if you think about it, those are components that inherently a goal, or like a good goal, it should have all of those components.
Right.
Rokeya, I'm not sure if I'm saying your name correctly. Go ahead and ask.
Yes, thank you so much. It's such a great exercise. So we have only 3 people in our group. So our goal to start a new business, art business, within a year. So that was our goal, and we actually went step by step. We completed.
Wow.
So I think it's a great exercise. You can go back, and when I was doing this with my group, I was thinking my own personal goal. I used a SMART goal before, but this is more of a give us a guidance, like what you need to focus on step by step. So thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. I'm so glad. And that's a great one. The goal that you came up with, starting your own business. And I'm sure that a lot of students, I know a lot of our child development students want to start their own daycares or schools. So I think that's a really valuable one that a lot of students could benefit from. So thank you for sharing. Maybe for this exercise, the next time that I do it, I don't know if it would be easier in terms of the time that you're given if I already have a goal, and then you have to create the SMART components of it if there's already a goal populated in there. I just wanted it to be a little bit more authentic to the group's interest rather than me saying what the goal would be, but maybe for sake of time, that would be something that I could try next time. Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay. So we're going to continue on. Thank you so much, everyone, for your participation and for your input. All right, so how do we balance our schedule? Easier said than done, right? We have all of these different things. The first part is we have all of our obligations. So you're thinking about everything that you have to do in your life, right? I'm sure all of us right now is kind of like weighing on us, especially now. You know, a lot of us are still quarantined at home. And so your work life, your school life, your social life, your parenting life, caregiving life, all of those things are kind of all converging in one location. So it makes things even more hectic. It's even harder to balance. So one thing that we would recommend is blocking all important set time obligations. And so that might be if you have any specific meetings, like a Zoom meeting, appointments, you need to block it out. And I know a lot of this is things that you probably already know or that you are practicing, but it's always good to kind of see it and to be reminded of it and to put it into the larger context of why this is what we need to do in order to feel balanced. If you're taking classes, so think about the syllabus. So when you get a syllabus, you know, where all of us are, a lot of us are in classes now, note the class schedule. Most syllabi should have a class schedule where it's breaking things down, most likely week by week. Notice the weights of activities. So assessments versus quizzes versus, you know, maybe discussion boards on Canvas and other assignments. Highlight all exams and project due dates. Okay, and that's something that I recommend that you manually do, because even though a lot of us who are taking classes online, you're probably using Canvas as your learning management system, and Canvas is nice. It does a lot of these things for you, where it will, you know, there's a calendar feature in Canvas. You'll see your to-do list in Canvas, and we'll look at that on a later slide. But I recommend not just depending on Canvas to sort everything, but you should also manually, like physically, take your syllabus, make the highlights. If you have a phone and you're inputting due dates into your calendar with alarms, so that you have that extra reinforcement of seeing how your schedule is going to be managed and how you're going to line up everything that you have to do. Also, study. This is important too, because just being in class is not enough, right? Oh no, just that class time is not enough. You also have to make sure that you are embedding time to study. So reserve time in your schedule for study time. For every hour in class, you should be spending 2 hours outside of class. And this is research-based. These are called Carnegie hours. So for every hour that you're spending in class, then you should be spending, or the expectation is that you're spending 2 hours outside of class, reading, taking notes, going over homework, etc. So if you're taking a 3-unit class, then that means each week you should be spending outside of class 6 hours doing all of the studying and homework and all of those things that go into helping you be successful in that class. And so I think that's something that we don't necessarily embed time into our schedule to do, but it's really, really important to do it. Information processing is something that I'm really fascinated with, like how we learn and how our brain takes in information and how we store information, how we're able to retrieve information. So according to information processing theory, the idea is that if you're in a class and you're taking notes, you need to review those notes within 24 hours of writing down those notes. Because if you take longer than 24 hours, let's say, your class is on a Monday, you have a test on Friday, you take notes on Monday, but you don't break out those notes until Thursday night before your test, guess what? That information that was stored in your short-term memory when you were taking those notes has now, poof, it's floating away somewhere in the atmosphere. At least most of that information, it has not been stored into your long-term memory. It's gone. So now Thursday night, you're having to almost relearn that information again because it's no longer in your long-term memory. The short-term is exactly that, it's short-term. So one rule of thumb or something that I could advise you is that when you take notes, try to review those notes. So set aside time in your schedule to review those notes within 24 hours because you're more likely to take that information from your short-term memory and move it into your working memory or to your long-term memory to be retrieved when you need to use that information later. Number 4, we can't forget about sanity. Make sure to give yourself a break and do something fun. Reset. That's an acronym. We'll take a look at that. It's really, really important because, I'm sure you've all heard a lot about it lately. It's not just a buzzword, self-care. We hear self-care a lot, take care of yourself, take care of yourself. But there really is something to that. Mental health awareness too is really, really important. So a lot of us are inundated with stress and all of these obligations that we're trying to balance, especially in these difficult times. But you're not going to be effective. All of this stuff is moot, right? All of this, time management and balancing your schedule is moot if you are not taking care of yourself, if you're stressed out, if you're feeling overwhelmed or depressed. So make sure that you carve out time for your own sanity. So here are some examples of the Canvas calendar. So I'm assuming a lot of you are familiar with Canvas. And so these are things that are helpful. These are things that are taken from my class. So this is on the left here. This is a to-do that you would see in your Canvas shell. So you have a list and you see it's chronological by date. So welcome, greeting, welcome to week 1. So here are all the different things that Canvas is telling me that I have to do. And it's really helpful because then I get a nice snapshot of all the things that I have to do. Now, do I just leave it there and just look at it and hope that I remember? I would input those things in my phone, especially if you're not someone who's logging into Canvas every day. I do, and I know that a lot of my students do. But if you're not, if you're only logging in once or twice a day, then that's not going to be enough to see that to-do list. You would probably need to transfer it to something that you're going to be, taking a look at on a regular basis. Also, Canvas is really nice. It inputs everything that's due into a calendar. So then you can kind of see, you can take a look at it. Okay, my Sunday is pretty packed. I know that I have a lot of things happening on Sunday, so I'm going to balance it out. I'm going to maybe separate and do a little bit on Monday, a little bit on Tuesday, because I don't have anything on those days. So I want to spread it out so that I can chunk it and pace myself so that I'm not, here on Saturday night cramming to do everything that's due on Sunday. And if any of you have any, as I'm going through some of these more concrete and tangible practical things, if any of you have tips or best practices of things that you do to manage your schedule, please feel free to unmute and share it or raise your hand. because you all probably have a better sense of things that work well for you that you can share with some of the other participants here. So here are some other ideas to keep track. So Post-it notes. I love Post-it notes. So I'm kind of old school where I like to feel like I have tons of Post-it notes where I keep track. I can post them on my computer. I post them in my books. It's just really quick, easy ways for me to say I can color code, quick and easy ways for me to see things that I need to do, reminders. There's a lot of apps. So if you want to keep things organized more digitally, you can use apps such as Evernote. That's one that I use. Note Shelf, GoodNotes, Google Outlook calendars with alarms are really helpful. If you have any other ideas, feel free to put them in the chat. Wall or desk calendars, if you're like me, again, I like things that I can actually touch, like paper. Planners, you can have daily planners, weekly planners, monthly planners. Printable calendars are great. I like to do that, especially if I want other folks in the household to see. I'll print it out, or we even use the big erasable whiteboard so that we can see everyone's schedule at a glance. Excel spreadsheets are also really helpful to keep track of things that are upcoming. Now, it does take a lot of work, right? Which is why it's great that there's so many different options. So choose the option that works best for you, that you feel like you're going to actually use, right? Because whatever works for one person might not work for someone else. So choose the one that works best for you. Are there any other ideas of things that you can do to keep track? How do you keep track of your schedules? I like this one here because it has the class, assignment, and due date. So this particular calendar gives you a place to put all of those things so that you can see it day by day at a glance. Linda says that she uses a physical calendar and hangs it on the fridge. I love it. There's nothing better than just the traditional old school where you have the actual calendar where you can flip the pages, you can erase. I always use pencil. You can erase, you can put Post-its in there and change it around. Oh, someone uses Trello at work. It's fun and interactive. That's awesome. I don't know that one. Verso, I don't know what the Pomodoro technique is. Do you want to tell us, Joseph, what is sanity? What's the Pomodoro technique?
Hello, everybody. One of my sociology professor mentioned it, and I was like, what is that? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's an app on the phone that gives you this window of 12 20-minute increments of studying or getting something done. And then there's a 5-minute break, which is what you're talking about. So I've been using it to stay on top of certain things, and I use paper calendar, digital, not so much, but I do 2 paper calendars and 1 whiteboard. Because by that time, I remember automatically, like, oh, something's due. I love it when it something's due. So I put it in multiple places because I need that.
That is awesome. I love that. And that's the Pomodoro technique you said, the one where it's like 20-minute chunks. And you know that's research-based. Someone researched that this is how optimum performance, you know, the way that human nature works, that we do 20-minute increments with a 5-minute break. And those of you who are education or child development, we talk about that in terms of attention spans with little kids, right? You're not going to sit there and do a 30-minute lesson for a preschool child. You're going to do chunks of 10, 15 minutes and switch it up, because that's how their brain works. And so we have to really keep in mind, how do we function? How do we learn best? So I love that. Thank you for sharing. So here are some other examples. It's a little bit up close. So this would be me on this side where you're just handwriting it. Like, I love how they have different color markers. They have tests nice and big, right? All the different things are happening.
If I may.
Yes, please.
So I actually used to have a planner, and I would put everything in there, like my social life, my work, school, everything. And recently what I've been doing is I have an agenda for schoolwork. I have one of those wall calendars for all of like my self-taught things that I'm doing, and then one for just my work schedule.
I love that.
So,
and how does that work for you?
It's been working much better. I get less overwhelmed when I look at it, because I can just focus on one aspect of my life at a time instead of looking down at all these colors and gibberish everywhere. Side notes. So that's been helpful for me.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that tip. I think I can relate. I have my Outlook calendar that I use for work, and I have a Google calendar that I use like for my kids' appointments and things that are not necessarily work related, like personal appointments and other things like that, social things. Because part of the reason is just because it's too complicated for me to merge the two. I looked up how to do it and it's really complicated. And I've asked a few people like, how do I merge my Google calendar and my Outlook calendar? And no one has an easy answer for me. So I keep them separate. And I think it does help in that sense because I can kind of compartmentalize, but the only downside of it is when I'm trying to plan something, I have to look at both calendars. So usually it just takes me a little bit longer when someone's like, when are you available? I have to like pull up my Outlook and then I have to cross-reference it with my Google Calendar. But I love the idea of kind of compartmentalizing those different aspects because then it feels less overwhelming. Thank you for sharing that. So we're going to talk about efficiency. So efficiency comprises of kind of three components: procrastination, the power of no, and multitasking. Okay, so before we, I'm just going to launch a quick poll about procrastination to see where you all kind of fall. So, and just be honest, this is anonymous. Okay, so in a moment, you're going to see the questions pop up. Okay, when you have a deadline on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being I plan well ahead of time, how much do you procrastinate? So a 10 to 9 up there is like I usually complete the task at least a week ahead in advance. 8 to 7, usually several days in advance, all the way down to 2 to 1. Like usually it's after it's 2, like I'm doing it after the fact. So I'll give you about a minute. We got about 70% of the votes in. I'll just wait maybe 20 more seconds for anyone else who wants to put in their response.
I like the honesty of the one person that selected. I usually complete the task after it's due.
Yeah.
Well,
So true. Yep.
It can happen.
It definitely could happen. Life happens, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and end in 5 seconds. We have 80%. All right, so let's take a look at the results. So it looks like most 13 of you, most of us were kind of in the middle, 6 to 5. They usually completed a day or two before it's due, right? And then we have a few outliers on either side. We have one student who said that they usually complete the task at least a week in advance, and one who completes it after it's due. And then we were kind of like split with the rest of the folks. 10 folks said they usually complete the task several days in advance. And then a few folks, 9, said, I usually complete it right before it's due. So thank you for your honesty. So you can kind of see that we're mostly in the middle. And Linda said in the chat that, you know, if it's something that she dislikes, she does it really late and she's good on homework and work related things. And that's kind of how it is, right? You know, we tend to put more time on task for things that are more enjoyable. I know some people work the other way. You take the thing that you want to do the least and you do that thing first, right? Because you want to get it out of the way. You want to, you know, be able to feel that pressure off so that you can do the more preferred activity, which I think makes perfect sense. But again, it goes back to knowing yourself and doing, you know, what works for you based on your habits. So here are some different forms of procrastination. You can all see my screen, hopefully. So these are funny. Ignoring the task, hoping it will go away, which I know sounds funny, but we do that. Underestimating how long it will take, which is me all the time, which is probably with this presentation. Underestimating how long it'll take. Overestimating your abilities and resources. Telling yourself that poor performance is okay, or insisting on perfection. I have a colleague who always says, don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. So because you're trying to be perfect, you're not doing anything because you just want it to be exactly right. And so you're like, I need extra time, or you just don't even start it because you don't think you can get it perfect. So you say, why bother doing something else that isn't very important? Like, oh, I think this is a great time to sort my socks, or I think this is a great time to alphabetize my DVDs or something, right? When I have a deadline due. Believing that repeated minor delays won't hurt you. Talking about it rather than doing it, which I think we all are guilty of. Going back to that first quote about, I love to take time to complain about how I don't have time to do anything, right? But I have time to complain about it. Putting all of your work on only one part of the task, like spending all the time on the draft of your essay, but not on the actual essay. Becoming paralyzed when you have to make choices, like analysis paralysis. You're just so like bogged down with all the details that you don't even really get started. So here are some ways to overcome procrastination. Win the mental battle by committing to being on time. Set and keep deadlines. Organize, schedule, and plan. Divide a big job into smaller ones, which I think is really, really important. Find a way to make a game or make your work fun. Make it fun. Reward yourself when you're done. And I'm sure we don't have any problems doing that. I like to reward whether it's, I'm gonna go outside for, some sunlight and a walk, or if it's gonna be, I'm gonna watch one of my guilty pleasures, or I'm gonna get some ice cream. Reward yourself when you're done. Tell your friends and roommates to remind you of priorities and deadlines. And I think that's a big one too, because like we said before, when you make it public and you have people that are supportive of you and in your corner, then you tend to hold yourself more accountable, or they're there to kind of encourage you and urge you on, remind you, remember you said you were gonna, just checking in, how's that paper coming? And learn to say no to time wasters, so important. I'm gonna speed it up a little bit just so we can get through some of the remaining important stuff. How do we tackle time wasters? This quote kind of sums it up. I'm very busy doing things I don't need to do in order to avoid doing anything I'm actually supposed to be doing. So learn to recognize when you're wasting time. And that's why we spent time at the beginning of this workshop talking about this concept of time and how precious time is. So we need to learn to recognize when we're wasting time, but also realizing, when you're doing something that's recharging you, or you're doing something that is your break or your treat, that's not wasting time. That's something that's really necessary and essential. So please value that. Decide what you need to do and can realistically do. Learn how to say no when you don't have time. That goes back to the power of no. We need to learn how to say no. I think it's important, especially like in a work setting, if you're being asked by your supervisor or someone to do a task and you're feeling overwhelmed because you have all these other tasks to do. One piece of advice that I got that I thought was really helpful is you kind of frame it this way, and you can tell that person, okay, so if you're asking me to do A, are you okay with B not getting done on time? Are you okay with B having to be pushed back until later? Because sometimes people don't realize that by them asking you to do something, you're not going to be able to complete a task that you were previously obligated to do. So I think sometimes framing it that way, okay, so if you're asking me to complete this deadline, are you okay with this other previous task not getting done until tomorrow or not getting done until whenever? Returning calls and texts at your convenience. The phone is a major time killer, and I know all too well. I admit, I'm scrolling Insta, and I'm like, oh shoot, I need to get back to whatever the task is that I'm supposed to be doing. Learn to say, I can't talk right now, I'll get back to you. Keep that mantra in your brain. I can't talk right now, I'll get back to you. People who care will understand. Wasting time is often linked to a lack of self-discipline. And ask yourself, do I really need to do this or not? Do I really need to do this? And I will be honest, I talked to my own therapist and about, feeling overwhelmed with all of these things. And she told me two things that I put on Post-its that I put where I can see them in my workspace. One of the things that she said was, busy does not equal better. So I wrote it on a Post-it, busy, the little equal sign with the line crossed out of it, does not equal better, because I was finding myself overwhelmed because I wasn't saying no to things and I was stretching myself thin. And so her question was, well, what are you avoiding by doing all of these things? And I was like, ooh, that's a deep question. by making myself busy. So it was like, what am I, at a deeper level, what am I avoiding? Because busy does not equal better. And then the other thing that she had me put on a Post-it is, does this serve you? So I'm speaking to myself on Post-it. So right at my workstation. So once I'm trying to do something that maybe I'm feeling stressed out about, and I ask myself the question, does this serve me? So this thing that I'm doing, is it something that's going to serve me either short-term or long-term? And I felt like that was really helpful because I was finding that I was doing things that maybe wasn't serving me. So just some advice from my therapist to you, free of charge. All right, learn to say no. This is really important. Avoid the temptation to socialize when you've scheduled work. If friends ask you to join them last minute for a socially distanced outing or Zoom hangout, decline outright, but ask if you could get together later in the week. Socializing is important when you don't have other things to worry about. Study somewhere you won't be tempted to chat, watch movies or YouTube, or use social media. And because we know that texts are a major distraction, put your phone away or on silent. Is multitasking good or bad? And I know a lot of us are probably doing it right now. So things about multitasking is, number one, it divides your attention. It's causing you to focus on multiple things at once. And it's something that won't get the attention it needs to be done well. So take a look at this video. I'm not gonna tell you too much about it, but just watch it, and then I'm gonna ask you a question at the end.
Still thinking you're a great multitasker? Try this awareness test. Count the number of passes the white team makes. The answer is 13. But did you notice the witch walking through the practice?
All right, how many of you noticed the witch?
Still thinking.
Anyone? I know that when I first did that, I definitely didn't.
Yes, I did.
Some of you did. So that's awesome. So the idea is that, you know, when you're focused on something, you're really, really paying attention to that thing. So if you are really trying to count the passes for the white team, then that's what you're focusing on. You're not multitasking, kind of looking everywhere. But some of you still saw the witch, which I think is fascinating. So really quickly, because I know we're running out of time, ironically, haha, with the time management workshop, there was a study that was done where it was found that students were multitasking. They were on their laptops in a classroom, and the students in the experiment were asked to multitask average 11% lower on the quiz, right? Which sounds pretty logical. We would probably draw that conclusion. What I thought was surprising was that the students in the second experiment who were surrounded by the laptops, they actually scored even lower. So it's like this distraction by proxy. So the students who were asked to multitask scored lower, but the students who were around them were distracted even more. And so they scored even lower than the original group that was asked to multitask. Pretty fascinating. I'm going to wrap it up. I will share this PowerPoint on the Teach LARC website so that you can see any tidbits and things that we missed. So think about, how would you prioritize this list of daily tasks? Are you working your A's off? So A's are things that you have to do. B's are things that you need to do. C list is things that you want to do. So here is a list of things. Buying laundry detergent. So just kind of in your mind, or if you have a Post-it handy, which I always do, which of these things do you have to do? Which of these things do you need to do? Which of these things would you just want to do? I'll give you about 20 seconds just to take a look at the list and categorize them. Okay, so This is what you should have had on your A list. This is what you should have had on your B list. And this is what you should have had on your C list. So, and whatever, you know, for your own life, that A, B, and C list might look different, but here are just some examples. All right, I'm going to skip this Big Rocks, a lesson on prioritizing, but feel free to take a look at the video if you are able to access it on the website. So thinking about circadian rhythms, I'm going to skip to the next slide because I think it's really kind of important to get the concrete point of this. Circadian rhythm is the way that your body's sleep cycle works. Okay, so you want to use the natural rhythm instead of fighting them. And that helps with your efficiency by scheduling certain activities at certain times of the day. So 8 to 12 noon, this is best for cognitive or mental tasks like reading, calculating, and problem solving. So those are best performed and most efficiently in the morning. But if you're a night owl, you're always going to shift these times to about 3 or 4 hours later in the day. If you sleep really late, you go to bed really late. Short-term memory, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. So these are last minute things like reviewing for tests. They're best performed early in the morning, but again, shifted 3 to 4 hours later in the day if you're a night owl. Long-term memory, 1 to 4 p.m. So things like memorizing speeches or information for application, like higher level cognitive skills, are best performed in the afternoon. Pretty interesting, right? Monitoring your screen time. And then here's the acronym for reset. Give yourself rewards and relax, exercise, sleep, eat nutritiously, and practice time management skills. All right, so as we close, just in the chat, if you can, write down one thing that you plan to do to help with your time management. One thing that you plan to do to help with your time management. What's one thing? Seeing some great things. Make an ABC list. Plan not to keep yourself busy. Weekly check-ins, using a planner, not multitasking, resetting. Love it. Love all of it. All right. So thank you so much. Any questions for me? I will share this PowerPoint so that you can access it later when you have the time. And again, you can expect to get your certificate by tomorrow, no later than Thursday. If you put your first and last name and email in the chat, you will get a certificate of attendance from me. And there's my contact information if you have any questions.
One question. Can I see the slide where you show the rhythm of rhythm
Where I
cycle?
showed which one? Oh, yes, yes. I'll go back to the circadian rhythm. Sorry that I had to rush through that. This one.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so this would be a good one to take a picture of.
Yeah, I did. Thank you.
And also they say for things that are manual. So manual dexterity things. So things that you're going to do with your hands are best done from 2 to 6. I didn't put that on there, but anything that's manual dexterity related, 2 to 6 p.m. So more of the midday. So if you're going to be doing something with your hands, and it's more optimum to do it during the middle of the day. And again, this is based on the circadian rhythms, which is your body's sleep and wake cycle. Oops, sorry.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
That's very helpful.
Sure. Thank you all so much for participating. I hope that you got something out of this session. I know it's been a long day for some of us who've gone to multiple sessions, but I really appreciate your participation and your great suggestions and your input. So thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
In our certification, is it gonna say 4 to 6? Because I know today's supposed to finish at 6:30.
No, it started from 4:30 to 6.
I know, but the thing says 6 to 6:30. That's what I'm saying.
No.
I don't think so. I think it was scheduled from 4:30 to 6. So on your certificate, it will show 4:30 to 6. So it'll be an hour and a half.
Because
Okay.
there's another one starting at 6.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, thank you.
you're welcome. Because for a minute I panicked. I was like, oh my God, I have 30 more minutes. But I'm like, no, it was from 4:30 to 6.
I think she's confusing it with the other one. I think for the
With
the one
Mission
that was
College.
There was another one that, yeah, there was another one
with
from 5 to
Veronica's.
6:30.
Yeah, Veronica's session.
Yeah.
Eric, you asked, where do you found are you saying the certificate? Eric put in the chat. I'm not sure what he meant. The certificate will be emailed to you as long as you gave me your email. Thank you, Madeline. Any other questions? Thank you, Bobby, for your help. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I liked some of the comments that people were
Oh,
putting.
I love it. I love it. I can't wait to go back into the chat because I'm sure I missed some of them. Thank you, everybody.